Episode 66. Wow, I only need one more 6 to show my real face as a disciple of Satan, which I had to become in order for the Nuggets to win their first championship in 50 years. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the episode 66 of the DNVR Nuggets' Serbian Corner. My name is Miroslav, and we are in the preseason, baby. The NBA champions, Denver Nuggets, are back in town. Well, they were for a couple of hours for the media day, and then they went to San Diego for the training camp since it was too big of a group of players and coaches to fit in a high school gymnasium they use as their training facility in Denver. They're looking forward to having the altitude advantage over their opponents once they actually get the chance to accommodate to the mile-high altitude in a couple of months or so. It might take longer, to be honest, since they have a 4 games home stretch in early November, a 3 games home stretch in mid-December, then another 4 game stretch between Christmas and New Year. You get the picture. Other than that, they will be in their team plane a lot. I don't want to bug you guys with my own takes for too long, so let me bring in some help. First, a co-host of the ever-rising Nuggets podcast called The Four Corners. He has been Buckets since '88, the biggest Nuggets fan in the state of Louisiana. Calling from the Central Time Zone, it's Peter Martin. Pete, we're almost here. The first Nuggets preseason game is in 3 days. How excited are you, and what do you want to see from the Nuggets the most from the jump?
Hey, what's up, Miroslav? I'm excited. I'm just excited to see the new pieces, honestly. I mean, I think we all know how well the starters fit together. And so, the Nuggets had a lot of new pieces last year. So they've got a little bit of continuity coming back on the bench with with Reggie and DeAndre and with Christian. But it's going to be exciting to see some of those new pieces, mix in, and everybody's going to be hungry.
We've seen some really interesting quotes from the huddles of the training camp, and we'll talk about them in a minute. But before that, let me introduce my second guest for today. He is the second most famous person from Cypress, California. I guess Tiger Woods is still more of a household name than him. Well, for now, here's a guy whose Nuggets takes I've cherished for almost a decade now. Calling from the Pacific time zone, it's at RxSmart2 for friends, just Ray Martinelli. What up, Ray?
How's it going? By the way, I don't know if you know who John Stamos is, but he is also from Cypress, California.
Yeah, but
he is famous.
Yeah, but
he's like way more famous than Tiger Woods.
I mean, he is famous, but he's from the 80s. He's like the Lakers of the NBA, like the team of past, So
well, I don't know. I would not talk any trash. You're gonna get them to start having some conversations about this.
Miroslav, who's the most famous person where you're from?
Yeah, well, there have been some famous people living in Pančevo, not born in Pančevo, but some pretty big guys that used to live in Pančevo because it used to be a big town, big city in the time of Austro-Hungarian Empire. So most of the well-known Serbs from the 19th century, for instance, used to live in my hometown. I will not bug you with the exact names, but you can imagine it was a powerhouse of
you don't want to go too Serbian Corner on us.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe if I prepare a special segment with the nice graphics and everything, well, that's actually a good idea. So, Ray, is this the preseason you are most excited to see in years, or maybe not?
I'll be honest with you. I'm like a little ready to just not ready. I'm not ready for the season to start because I'm still on the high from just the actual title and everything. But I'm sure once the ball is up in the air, it'll get me pretty excited. I'm excited to see how the young guys do though, because you've got so many guys that you just don't know who's going to play where and who's going to kind of emerge as their core guys. It seems like it's going into training camp, it was one thing, and now everybody's talking about, okay, maybe it's going to be the older guys now.
Yeah.
Or the vets.
Yeah, let's start with the training camp, because let's just do the basics first. It's always amazing to me how short it is.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell are these guys supposed to build actions and chemistry in a 4-day span? And the short answer is they can't. The NBA is not interested in making the game super competitive in October. They're interested in starting making money in the shortest possible time frame. That's why guys like Nikola Jokic can come to Denver 8 days before the first preseason game or 3 weeks before the first official game. They don't want the ramp up, they just want the revenue. Also, it's fair to say that the NBA players, at least most of them, are kind of like top-notch jazz musicians. You can assemble a quartet of jazz guys who never met before, 10 minutes before the show, and they can agree on the repertoire and the order of solo parts and be ready. Of course, they would prefer to spend some time together and jam before they have to hit the stage, as the NBA coaches would probably like to have their team for a longer time before showtime, but it is what it is. Ray, tell me, what's the most interesting piece of information for you coming from the training camp?
I know we're going to talk about this, but it's the fact that Jokic loves learning about basketball. That the quote that Adam had from yesterday. I mean, I think we all knew it, right? We all kind of thought about it, but now to actually hear it, you're just like, oh, this is like totally true, because it wasn't that he was saying, yeah, I enjoy learning about this. It was more like saying, if you want to be great, you have to study. And, you know, I wonder what he like learns and what he does that's basketball related in his private time. But I really kind of have a feeling it's a lot. It's a lot more than we think. So that whole story it blew my mind, and it came out like 15 hours ago, 20 hours ago. That's what I would say.
Pete, do you remember another NBA superstar talking about watching the coaches' camps, coaching seminars, and referencing to them at any point in the past?
I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but to be honest, no. I feel like Kobe was the guy that was most interested in basketball, that was always kind of talking about other teams, like at other levels. You know, he obviously loved women's basketball, but I don't remember him specifically talking about a certain coach's clinic.
Yeah, what is interesting to me here is Jokic had that quote that he probably held the basketball for 2 or 3 times during the offseason, which is probably not true, by the way. But, you know, I can imagine him not being too heavy with basketball physically. He was probably, you know, going through his regime for the offseason that builds up his body every year. And we know that he actually starts every season on a really, really high level. But what's interesting to me here is that he is actually building up the other part of basketball, and he's already probably the guy with the highest basketball IQ. I mean, currently, there's no question, I think, but you might even say that he's one of the top-notch basketball IQ guys in the history of basketball. And he's still insisting on building up on that. And of course, who do you want to ask and who do you want to watch? Then some really great basketball coaches. And I don't think it's any coincidence that he's chosen the Serbian coaches, not because they're the best in the world. It's because they're a bit different comparing to NBA coaches. I think after 8 seasons of the NBA, Nikola knows every wrinkle you can find in the NBA playbook, not only on the Nuggets, but on the other teams as well. So he's trying to expand his views and see how the other coaches are using, you know, slightly smaller court or stuff like that in FIBA basketball, and then so he can use it in the NBA game. So it's really interesting to me, and I agree with you, Ray. It's probably the biggest takeaway of them all from the from the training camp. What about you, Pete? Do you have something other that took your interest?
I mean, maybe you can help me out with this, but I'm having a little bit of trouble reading Jokic sometimes because I don't know if he's being truthful or if he's gotten to the point where he's figured out the media and he just kind of says stuff to give us something that we might think is interesting. Like when he answered the question of was this his best summer yet, he said no, it was the shortest one. You know, I feel like there's a little bit of truth to that, but how much is just like, oh God, what another ridiculous question. Like, here's something just to like get off my back. Cause I think he hates the media still. So, but he's realized that he can't just be the most boring guy ever. 2-time MVP. Now he's got a championship. He's got to give us something.
No, I think that was a joke because I mean, I don't think he hates those questions as much as we think. So, I mean, he realizes it's a part of a job. He just needs to be there to answer those questions. But he was just joking because, you know, there were some summers when he was playing for the Serbian national team, and that's something that will take away 2 months of his summer anyway. So there's not a big difference in rest time of his regular summer with the Serbian national team or this one without the Serbian national team, but with a shorter offseason because of the long playoff run. So yeah, it's a joke, and he likes to joke. And I promise you guys, he's so much funnier in Serbian. He's just making jokes all the time. It's a bit harder for him, you know, because of the language barrier. But still, he's using his time when he can to make a joke like this. One thing I wanted to take away from the huddles of the training camp was when Michael Malone said that none of the guys playing off of the bench should feel they're entitled to a rotation spot. And we all said, yeah, of course, that's a smart thing to say. You don't want people to get complacent and stuff like that. But I think what he meant by that is that two guys in particular, one of them being Peyton Watson and the other one being Zeke Nagy, are the guys that think they're surefire rotation guys because there's nobody behind them in the pecking order. Or maybe it's more of a Zeke thing that there are no bigs behind him except for DeAndre Jordan. By the way, don't be surprised if DeAndre is actually playing game one.
I agree.
Like 12 minutes.
Agree.
So I really think it was a message to those two guys, and I think it's very fair from Malone because the Rooks have some real, I don't want to say potential, they have some real skill in them, and they can jeopardize their position in the rotation. So do you think there was something else he wanted to point out, or was it really focused on these two guys? What about you, Ray?
I'm not sure if it was really focused on, I mean, maybe it was focused on them, but I definitely think that he wants them to hear it. Even like going back many years, I think that the only rookie that actually he really wasn't a rookie, but it was sort of in the Peyton Watson mold that came in his second year and was just playing regardless of what happened was Monte, right? But I think that what he looked at is what happened with Christian Brown, and that what's happened in the past, it's been successful where you just don't give the position to somebody, and even if they're in the rotation for a few weeks or a few games, they can get pulled out for a little bit if they're just either not performing it or just for any reason. I know that it really upsets fans, and I've like totally argued with a lot of people on Stiffs about this, but I think it works in the long run, that they almost have to like be on their P's and Q's and be making sure that they're, I mean, I'm sure it's more of a defensive thing, but just playing at the level that's expected of them. And then by the time the playoffs roll around, if you notice, most of the time he just sort of takes off those shackles and lets them go. So that's what I hope is going to happen.
Yeah, a bit in the spirit of George Orwell's 1984, like we are all equal, but some of us are more equal than the other ones. Do you think that Michael Malone is setting the table that everybody has a equal chance, and some of the guys just should not feel entitled to anything before the training camp ends and the preparation games end as well.
Yeah, I mean, as a coach, you have a difficult job because you got to play the best guys, but you also want to make sure that everybody's still with you in the fight, right? So I think it's smart to say everybody has a chance, because what you don't want to do is like alienate a guy early and then a guy gets hurt and then you're like, oh, never mind. Like, come on, we need you now. So I think it's smart, and Peyton Watson, like, if we're being honest, he's done everything right. He's put in the time in the gym, and he's really shows that he wants this. So it seems like Malone is probably going to give him a longer leash, unless he's just completely horrible. But I think in the past, Malone's done a pretty good job about he'll play guys if they've earned it, right? And then if guys just aren't playing, he's usually been pretty right about that. There hasn't been too many guys that just weren't good in Denver and then left and then were good somewhere else. I mean, sometimes it was just a matter of, maybe not having the minutes. Like Malik Beasley's the only guy I can think of who didn't really play much in his first couple of years and then played more. But obviously Malone had his issues with him. I just think that everybody on the team right now is kind of, not in his doghouse. They're like in his good graces. So I can see them all having a role this season.
Yeah. Okay. Any other huddles, takeaways you would like to mention before we move on?
What about what Mike Porter said? Or was that like last week? You might have already talked about it last week, but when he talked about how his role is not going to change, I'm not sure if that was last week or was that the early part of this week? It was the first interview on Monday.
It feels like the Thursday of media day, actually. Media day. Yeah.
Media day was Monday, right?
Yeah.
Wow. That's right. The training camp, like you said, is like 2 days long. No, that was really cool because he didn't like sit there and say like, he wasn't like somebody was saying something into his ear and then he was just repeating it. He actually was like, yeah, I don't think my role is going to change this much. And it seemed very honest. And Mike, to his credit, always seems to answer things really honestly, even if it gets him into trouble. And the way he said it, it was like, wow, he seems like he's pretty cool with all this. I know a lot of guys have already talked about it, but I just think that we need to give him more credit for just how much he's bought into like everything, considering where he, what he could be doing on another team as far as his role is concerned, because he's basically like, KCP or, any other 3-and-D guy, but he's damn good at it and could do better or could have a larger role.
I used to be known as a Porter hater, and Pete remembers this really well. I just felt that, if you're not a complete basketball player, there's no way you can be a key guy on a championship team. But I was wrong. I mean, Michael Porter is so good at stuff he does well that, I mean, he's such a super role player. And it's always better to have a super role player on your team than a bad superstar. That's a line I stole from Adamares.
Yeah.
So Pete, how do you feel about Michael Porter really getting into that groove of a guy that's completely fine with a role that's far lesser than what he imagined it would be like 5-6 years ago when he was a top recruit in high school and in college? Well, in high school, I guess. How impressive is it to you now?
I love it. It's great. I mean, it's sort of a two-part thing because on the one hand, I'm really happy that he's come to this realization, because so many times when a team wins a championship, right, it's like that's when guys start looking out for themselves. And it seems like this Nuggets team all really like each other, and I'm sure that there's a part of him that wishes he had a bigger role, but he's still got the money and the organization believes in him. And, it's not like the superstars are selfish. So Jokic and Murray, they still pass the ball. They make the right play. I was talking to Voya in Spaces the other night, and he made a really great point. He's like, most Serbian fans didn't really like MPJ because he's like the exact opposite of the way basketball is taught, how it's being played in Europe. And that just made me think about how when you've been playing a certain way your whole life, even as hard as you work to improve, it's really hard to make that change from your style to, a high IQ style. So I think we really have to praise Porter for the way he's taken baby steps and learned over the years to fit into the system. On the other hand, I do feel bad because I do think that a big part of this is like lucky for the Nuggets that he got injured, because had he not gotten injured, I do think he would view himself more as like, I'm going to try to be a superstar, but he's just glad to be healthy and be part of a winning culture.
I'm going to interject because I actually I really do question, is it something that he realized, or has it just always been him and that we've given him a different amount of credit? Because if you look, like back in high school, I believe they won the national championship, right? Like he was a winner in high school. And when he was in high school, like pretty much the best shot is probably going to be, no matter where he's at, just shoot the ball. So it's like he probably developed to play that way, but maybe he's just always been all about winning his whole life. And that because he was so good and they just made him score all the time, or they just had him score all the time, he was like, that's what we thought of him. Because every step of the way, it seems like winning has always seemed to be the most important thing. Even the controversial game 4 against the Jazz, that was against the Clippers. The statement where he said that, the ball needs to go here. He was really saying, we can't beat this team like that. It wasn't like I need my shots. So I'm kind of wondering if he's just always been a winner and it's always been inside of him. But yeah, I'm sure that he does. Like, it would be great to have a larger role. But like, if it was like be a flawed star versus a winning role player, I think he probably would take the latter. Sure seems like it, at least.
Yeah, I believe it was two summers ago, before his last injury in the procedure he had on his back. Mm-hmm. Ryan Blackburn had a tweet saying that what's very, very impressive about Michael Porter, he's not only super efficient, he is a guy that makes very few turnovers as well. Mm-hmm. And I got a snarky comment on that, saying that, yeah, of course you're not going to turn the ball over if you shoot it every time you get it. And it was a really snarky comment from my side. But now, when I think about it, it's the perfect thing to do. He's not supposed to do anything else. I mean, we might see some glimpses of his playmaking this season as well, because, of course, he's playing in that really, really good system, and why not? But is there a better shot than a semi-open Michael Porter at any point in time?
No, I don't think so.
Do you want a guy with an 80% true shooting to get it instead of him?
That's what I'm saying. Like, he should not be swinging the rock, so much when it gets to him and he's semi-open. And other than like Jokic, obviously, but when he's on the court, say without Jokic, I kind of want him. How do you feel about this, Peter? But I kind of want him to shoot a little bit more. Some of those shots that he took in the first 2 years, particularly the first year, where I was just like, man, that's a terrible shot. But it would go in enough to where when Jokic is not on the floor, that's probably a good shot for Denver. I want to see that more. What about you, Pete? Miroslav, or you kind of was like, we're going like this. I don't know if you were like, man, I can't take that anymore. And the types of shots.
I would love for him to get more opportunity, if Malone staggers, but I just think Malone has shown that he doesn't really like to stagger in the regular season, which is fine because it worked last year. So you want to keep those starters together as much as possible, but I think it'll kind of be one of those things where he'll give it like 10 to 15 games. If the bench can be passable, he'll just stick with it. If the bench is a disaster, he'll end up staggering Murray or Porter. But he'll get his chances.
Yeah, Michael Porter and to the lesser extent KCP, they're just cheat codes, because you already have three guys that are making so much pressure on defense, and then if you overload on any of them, you still have two guys in the corners that will make 45% of their threes. So that's just insanity. Okay, let's take a short break because we're running a bit long on the first segment, and then we'll come back with some predictions. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we are back. Let me take out the old presentation. So this is the title of today's show. The champions are back. And we'll start with our official predictions for the individual regular seasons for the 5 starters of Denver Nuggets plus Christian Brown. Now, I'm not sure we're gonna have enough time to go through all of the 6 guys, but we'll do our best to make it work today.
I'm
So
pulling up last season stats just to see,
yes,
just to make
so
sure.
we will start with this beautiful boy from Kansas called Christian Brown. So last year in the regular season, he averaged 15.5 minutes, 4.7 points, 2.4 rebounds, 0.8 assists, 35.4% for the 3-point line. When we went to the playoffs, he dropped to 13 minutes, and actually he had some games with like 1 minute or 20 seconds of playing time, so that also decreased the average. Only 3.2 points, 2.3 rebounds, 2 rebounds, 0.6 assists, 20% from 3. So these numbers are not very impressive by Christian Brown, but we know that he's not about the numbers. We know his value is far more than that. But I don't want to ask you guys what would you like to see from Christian Brown. I want your official 50 percentile outcome for him in this season. So let's start with Peter. What do you think he'll go from here individually?
So I definitely think he's going to get a bump in minutes per game. I'd be shocked if he's under 20. He'll probably be right around like 23, 24 minutes a game. So that should shoot his points per game up to, I'd say, 6.5, 7, and rebounds 3.5 and like 1.2 assists then.
What about you, Ray? Numbers wise,
I think he's going to be closer to 30 personally, just because there's so many unknowns on there, and that's sort of where Bruce was at. And I don't think he's going to come close to Bruce's like output, but I think that he might come close to Bruce as far as Mike Malone's reliance on him. I would venture to go like 30 points, but I really agree with Pete that I don't think his per 36 or per 30 are going to go up that much. Maybe just a tick up. Like, so if he's going to, let's just say we extrapolate this, it's probably like 12 points, 6 rebounds. Hopefully my math is okay. Something like that per game. I could see him going to like 13 or 14 points per 30 minutes, something a little bit higher. I would like to see his 3-point percentage stay where it's at or go higher. I don't think that, it's a little bit too much to say, oh, he's going to shoot 40%, but it would be great if he shot 36 again. These rookies tend to they don't really just come out shooting crazy as it goes. I just don't expect the stats to go up like a lot of people are saying. I still think his impact, though, I really do expect his impact to look a lot better, and maybe some of his impact metrics to look better than they were last year. Turnovers down as well, maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a cop-out answer and say that you're both right. Like somewhere between you two guys, between Peter's 23 minutes and your Ray's 30 minutes per game. I think Bruce was like 29 minutes per game last season, something like that. And he'll probably have a bit less than that. But the biggest difference between Christian Brown and Bruce Brown is the fact that he's not a playmaker. Well, at least he wasn't until this day. We'll see what will happen in the future. So Bruce Brown, you could have easily put him instead of any of the 5 starters, and you would still have a 5 that makes sense. And with Christian Brown, you cannot do that. You will have to have in either Jamal or Reggie or I guess Jalen Pickett. Just for the, I mean, what if you sub out Jamal and put Christian Brown in? Who's your best ball handler then? It's Aaron Gordon, right?
Yeah, if you have Yoke, I think it could work with Yoke. I actually would love that lineup with Yoke, but that's not like something you do every day. Yeah, you don't need a point guard when you have Joker out there.
Well, you can say that we did not have a point guard in Jamal Murray until like last 3 seasons or something like that.
Yeah,
he was always a super combo guard and not a point guard. I think what we saw from him in these playoffs and especially in the finals run, that's like the point guard, Jamal Murray. I just want the last thing about Christian, and then we'll move on. Do you think you'll feel nervous when you see Christian Brown subbing in for let's say KCP for some kind of closing minutes?
No. I mean, for KCP, I think KCP is a better player right now. So a little bit. I would wonder why if KCP is having a great game, but I get it. Like, he's bigger, so some matchups he's going to be better. I don't trust him as much shooting as KCP, but that's to be expected. KCP is one of the great shooters in the league.
What about if he's in instead of Michael Porter? What do you say, Pete? Would it make you nervous?
Well, this might be a cop-out answer, but to me, it would depend on what kind of situation he's in, because no, I don't want the clock going down to 3 seconds and then it's swung to Christian Brown because he's open and he's got to take the shot. But he's smart enough to know that most of the time he's cutting to the basket. So defensively, I trust him, and offensively, I trust him to be in the right situation. So, it's kind of rough spacing if you have him and Aaron Gordon on the floor at the same time, but I'm sure they'll make it work.
Okay, let's move on to KCP. KCP last season, 31 minutes, almost 11 points, almost 3 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 42.3% from three-point line. By the way, he had a pretty rough end to the season. He was shooting like 47%.
Yeah.
For like most of the season. Last year, it was insanity. And then we went to the playoffs. He upped those minutes to 33.6, almost the exact same points, a bit more, 3.3 rebounds, 1.6 assists, and 38% from three-point line, which is also really, really good.
Yeah.
What can we expect as a first 50% percentile outcome for KCP? Let's start with you, Ray.
I say then the minutes go down, and maybe that's more just them trying to preserve him age. And I think everything just stays exactly the same. He just seems like the same player every year. He's just super solid. Maybe the 3-point percentage was quite high, but then again, it's like he's been around that his whole career, and these are the best shots he's going to get. It might even go up just because he's probably going to get more corner threes now, I would assume, just because of their chemistry. And not only that, but we'll get to the other two later, two of the other ones later. But
yeah, I would say
the players around them are better. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, Peter.
Yeah, I'd say most likely it's going to be right in line with the same. I don't think his minutes are going to go down. I think Malone has just shown he doesn't really like to rest guys that he trusts. So he'll be at 30, 31 minutes again, I predict. I could see his scoring going up a little bit if that second unit is struggling, because if you remember, what Malone started doing was staggering Jamal and KCP. So he's really good on that, that secondary action where he just kind of, rubs around on that screen on the wing, and then he's able to get to that little elbow jumper, and that's a good way to like break up a run another team's got going. So he can definitely give you more offense if you need it. It's just the Nuggets have such an embarrassment of riches. All they need him to do is run to the corner and space the floor.
I think we'll see KCP with the bench more this season, because he's shown that you can create some actions for him. He's really good from the top of the key. He's really good around the free throw line with his jumpers. I think it might be something similar to what we got from Jeff Green last year. Like, when you have no offensive power whatsoever on the court, you just put the ball in the Jeff Green's hands and hope for the best for like 3 possessions in a row. But for me, KCP is such a monolith, guys. He is like, I feel like he can be the same guy for next 3 years, probably not much more than that, because of the defensive part, I guess. But I just feel so confident in his shot, and him playing on a string with the rest of the starters. It's really, I think we are underselling how well he fit with the starters in his first season on the Nuggets. It's like he's probably one of the guys who felt like um, like Holiday when he said that these guys are playing actual basketball. It's so fun. These guys really want everybody to contribute. By the way, that's one of the greatest quotes we've missed on from the training camp. So yeah, I just don't feel we'll see much different stats from KCP next season. He might have more of those 20 points outputs comparing to last season, but on average he'll probably just get to the similar
Guys,
spot.
isn't that crazy how that can happen at like the highest level of basketball? There's just like a team that has so much dysfunction. It's like these guys are all pros. You would think they would be able to get on the same page.
Yeah. Well, I think Denver's different too, though. Like, I think that just having your best player play that way, it's just kind of like there's very few stars. Maybe Golden State is the same, but I think all these other superstars, when they say they make the player better, I think what they actually do is they marginalize your skill set and kind of put you in a box. And then it's like, if the ball comes to you, you'll be a better shooter, but you're kind of like, you're not going to really play as much. But I think that Denver, especially, and then also Golden State, they just play basketball where it's just everybody's sort of involved, no matter what your skill set is. So I think it's just more of a Denver thing than, say, other dysfunction. But I could be wrong there. What do you think?
And I guess Holiday, Nuggets and Hawks is like two ends. Yeah.
It's. I mean, I always say this about the NBA. It's fake basketball because the regular season is so fucking long. You need to make up some stuff to get through it, and because you have such a crazy difference between your top stars and your role players in salaries, at least, it's really hard to build good chemistry with all 15 guys you have on your roster. So I guess this is why they make things more simple. They play, the pick and rolls to the death, and that was the death of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the playoffs. But they make it too simple just to get through it, and then we get a lot of other wrinkles in the playoffs, of course, and that's a completely different story. So in Europe, you have, for instance, guys, the top paid guys are like $3 million per year, maybe 4, and that's it. So you can imagine that the last guy on the bench, he does not get like 20 times less than the top stars. So I guess it's easier to create chemistry over there and to rely on more of your guys in that kind of situation. So yeah, that actually makes sense, that some guys will just never play real basketball in NBA, depending on which team they come on to. Okay, one more guy before the break, Michael Porter Jr. So Michael Porter Jr. last year, only 29 minutes per game, and if you ask me, perfect amount, just perfect. 17.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 1 assist, 41.4% from the 3-point line. That was his career worst, right? Mm-hmm. He was always a bit better than that, or a lot better than that. In the playoffs, almost 33 minutes, 13.5 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 35%. By the way, he had a really good 3-point shooting stretch in the playoffs before those finals, when he just stopped shooting. I mean, he continued shooting, he just stopped hitting. But what you gonna do? So I'm gonna let Peter cook with this one first. So you're our dedicated Michael Porter guy. So give us your prediction for him.
Yeah, so I'm really hoping that Malone lets him play just as much as the rest of the starters. Hopefully that minutes per game can bump up a couple to 31, 32. So we should be able to get his points per game over 18, thinking like 18.5. I really want to see him get his rebounds up to like 7 if possible, at least clear 6. And then, he's keeps improving as a passer. He probably won't get to 2 assists a game, but maybe get to like 1.5, hopefully. And, the 3-point shooting, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but he takes so many that I don't anticipating it getting much better. He's kind of going to stay sort of between 40-45%.
Ray?
I think pretty much exactly what Pete said, except for I could see his scoring going up. I do think that he's going to shoot higher than 41.5%, just because it's like his career low, which is crazy to see. It really does depend too on if he gets the green light to take some of those sidestep just with the guy in his face type of threes. But I even think he still might have a career, not a career high. I think his career high is 44%, right? Somewhere in between 41 and 44. I think he could land there again, just because he's done it like every time. Yeah. Or he might just get some weird, wacky 47, 48%, season. I would not put that past him. It's weird. Like you just trust him every time he shoots the ball. That's the most beautiful thing.
It's just crazy. It just shows you how efficient you can actually become if you're from out of this world, like 6'11" guy with a ratchet, and it's really hard to. I mean, you can imagine what his career would have looked like if he didn't have all of those injuries, if he had more athleticism in him, and just being able to pick up the ball from lower points on the court and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we are very, very happy with him. I actually don't think he'll get a bump in minutes. I think Michael Malone will try to stay smart with him. Actually, those 29 minutes, if you think about it, I think he would be at 31 last year if Bruce didn't end all of those games last year.
Yeah.
So that's probably the reason why he's at 29. But honestly, I really like that number. It preserves his body better, and I don't know, man. I actually don't know if his points will rise above this level. This is a very formidable numbers from him. He is a guy. I don't want to call him distractor. He's a guy you at one point you will have to leave semi-open, because these guys are just piling up stuff against your defense, and then you'll just have to let him, put a porter quarter on you and finish you completely. So
Miroslav,
yeah.
If there's one thing I'd like to see him improve, he only averaged 1.9 free throw attempts last year. If he's worked on his handle again, like he said he did, and then feels like he's starting to get a little bit more of that athleticism back, I feel like he should be able to attack the basket a little more and just be around the rim more, because he's been a good offensive rebounder when he's really trying. But I think sometimes coming back from the injury, he might just be hesitant to get inside and mix it up a lot. But we've seen he's been a really good, effective rebounder and finisher inside when he wants to be. So if he hesitates less this year, I think he'll have more easy baskets inside and hopefully get to the line more as well.
Okay, let's take a short break now, and then we'll go to Aaron Gordon.
That's a great point, though. Yeah, I wonder if it's like we'll talk about it.
Okay, let's continue with our predictions. So Aaron Gordon, last season 30 minutes on the nose, 16.3 points, 5.5 rebounds, just like Michael Porter, 3 assists, 34.6% from the 3-point line. But then in the playoffs, he went to almost 36 minutes, 13 points, the exact same like Michael Porter, 6.2 rebounds, 2.6 assists, and 39% from the 3-point line. Was this percentage in the playoffs fake or real, Ray? What do you think?
Fake. I think he's like an okay shooter, but he has stretches where he's shooting 39%. I think he shot that for like the first few months of the season. And to me, it doesn't even matter though, because he's so good at screening and just being a good player that him shooting 20% from the 3-point line is still getting guys wide open, because you have to guard him. We saw what the Lakers tried to do. They couldn't guard him. They kept on running KCP off of screens, or his man off of that. Aaron Gordon would screen, and there's nobody there to pick up KCP, etc. Going back to the whole thing, I think that 35% would be great if he just keeps shooting in that range. I think he could shoot that. That would actually might be his career high or getting close to it. But everything else, I kind of think it's going to stay the same. Maybe a little bump in points, and him and Michael Porter are going to be like kind of going after the same rebound. So if one goes up, the other one might go down. I think the Nuggets are a great rebounding team. Maybe his assists go up if he starts staggering more too. He's a really good just a really good basketball player, and I can see that his assists going up.
Peter, you've seen his assist from the training camp, the small piece of action we got to see from him. How excited are you for Aaron Gordon's season, and what do you predict?
I'm excited. I have to say though, I am a little bit not worried, but just sort of like hesitant, because he said that the goal is to get better this season, which is good. I just hope he doesn't mean expand his game. He should just continue to do exactly what he did last year and try to do it at an even more efficient level. We've been saying this for years, but the easiest thing for him to improve on is his free throw shooting. I think he's still in like either the low 70s or 60s. I don't have it in front of me. So that's like something that is just, getting in the gym and working on it. The 3-point shooting, it comes and goes. He definitely won us a couple of games with some hot shooting. But man, 39% in the playoffs, that's pretty crazy considering who he was guarding, right? I mean, you got to throw in the fact that he's guarding Karl Anthony Towns in round 1, Kevin Durant in round 2, LeBron James in round 3, and Jimmy Butler in round 4. That's a murderer's row, so he's always guarding the other team's best or like most physical forward. And then he still basically didn't lose much production. So, I mean, yeah, a guy like that to have on your team, I think it's safe to say Aaron Gordon is the glue of the Nuggets. You really can't replace him.
Yeah. Another guy I was way wrong about, by the way. Yeah, I was way wrong about him. I did not like that trade at all.
You hated the trade.
Oh my God, I was so wrong. Yeah, I hated it. Anyway, go.
I mean, who could have foreseen a guy coming to Denver to Sombor for 3 days this summer to hang out with Nikola? And you can feel like, you just tell me what to do, man. I'll just do whatever you tell me, because I know that's the best play every time. And I've listened to Keith Parrish and Dave DeFore a couple of days ago on the Daily Ding, and they mentioned how it is possible that Dame Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo will create the highest offensive rating based on their pick and roll. It will be either that or whenever Nikola Jokic touches the ball in any capacity. So basically, Aaron Gordon is just a guy that figured out, okay, I'm his guy. I'm going to do whatever he asked me to. And we've seen the fruits of that in crazy. A year ago, we did not know that the Nuggets are winning the championship. And every Serb, Adam and Brandon were interviewing on the streets, would tell them that Aaron Gordon is their favorite Nugget, of course, outside of Nikola Jokic, which makes sense because he is a guy willing to play real basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Okay. So let's take one more short break before we get to the main two guys. Don't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we are back. Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is the most interesting guy here, and I'm going to have some controversial takes here, and Peter will expect that because I already mentioned that on his pod a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I don't remember when it was. But last season, 33 minutes per game, 20 points on the nose, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 40% from three-point line. But then the playoffs came, 39 minutes, 26 points, almost 6 rebounds, more than 7 assists, including 10 assists per game in the finals, and almost exactly 40% from the three-point line. So, Ray, Is Jamal Murray gonna be all NBA guy this season, which means that he's gonna be great from the jump?
I think he actually is going to be great from the jump, but I'm going to say no because there's so many guards, and there's so many guards that he'd have to compete with, that he'd have to go over.
By the way, this season will be the first season where there are no positions in the All NBA, so you can have 15 guards if you want.
But won't that make it even harder then, since we're going to be putting, like some of the larger positions there? Yeah, I think that it's just going to be hard for him to make it. I think All-Stars is definitely there. His stats, I think it could be closer to somewhere in between the two that we're seeing here, 20 and 26 points per game, perhaps even more if he decides to push advantages that he typically doesn't push. And also, he's probably going to be fully healthy, whereas last year we had, probably 30-40% of the season where he wasn't quite right yet. So that's baked into this first number. But yeah, I think he might start pushing some edges that he doesn't normally push in the regular season, like pulling up a jillion times from three. If you notice that, like when he's playing right, he's taking 9 threes a game or 8 threes a game, especially in the playoffs. He didn't do that in the first part of last season, and I was wondering, and he doesn't do that normally, and I'm wondering if that's just he's trying to work on his game, or if it's more of a, just when he feels more comfortable, he's going to take more of those threes. There's so many times as fans, don't you sort of like, you're like, why didn't you take that three? You just, dribbled the ball and then pulled up for a tougher shot. And I used to get mad at that, but now I think it's awesome. And I think it's part of what makes him so difficult to guard in the playoffs, is that he has so many other counters that aren't just the analytical shots that you would normally want to go with.
Pete,
I just went off on a tangent. Sorry.
Pete, I'm gonna ask you something different. So imagine if Jamal actually averages 26.7 assists and 6 rebounds in the regular season. How much do you think he would have left in the tank for the playoffs after that kind of regular season?
I think he would have most of it. I think probably like 95%, but I don't think he would be as fresh as he was last year. I mean, I really do think you can't underrate how nice it was for the Nuggets that they were just able to coast in that last month of the regular season, because people started getting worried, and then they came out against the Timberwolves, and it was like they woke up. It's like a whole new team. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the West shakes out like this year. If how hard are they going to push for home court?
What do you think?
So here's the difficult part for me. So I think we know what we're going to get from Jokic. I think we know what we're going to get from Aaron Gordon, from Michael Porter, more or less, KCP for sure. I'm asking you guys, if Jamal Murray is averaging 25, 26 points per game on great efficiency and is dishing 7 assists per game, is there a way that the Nuggets are not a 65-win team then?
Maybe 60 plus, and I don't think that's. I think that there is not a way that they're like that, unless the bench is just a complete tire fire, or some of the other starters get hurt. I think that that's sort of what's going to happen, and I don't want to say they're going to be a high wins team, but I was really predicting a lower win total up until just recently, but they just seem like they're not going to be in this funk that they were at the beginning of last season. Granted, a lot of that was their road trips and everything else, but I could see them winning that many. And I think I know where you're getting at. You're just going to say that maybe he's going to rest a little bit, or what do you see?
I actually think he's going to take it slow again. This is my official prediction. I think we're going to be frustrated by him again for the first couple of months of the season, and it will be by design, because I think he wants to include the other guys more in the regular season, so he does not expend too much energy. you've seen the numbers from the other guys. KCP went down in the playoffs. Porter went down in the playoffs. Aaron Gordon went down. You need to take somebody's points away to increase yours. And, Nikola Jokic is not going to drop to 18 points per game just so Jamal could up to 26. So I actually think he's going to take it slow again. Maybe not as slow as last season, because last season he was, ramping up from the injury. And every smart Nuggets fan or analyst will tell you that they expect the Nuggets to be somewhere between, 52 wins and 55 wins. And I ask you guys, if Jamal is all NBA, there's no way they're winning less than 60. So that's like the main reason here. I think he wants to be more inclusive of the other guys. And I actually would like that. On the other hand, he has that motive of big money waiting for him next summer if he actually gets to the All NBA top 15. So we'll see what's the path that he will take. But I would say he would stay at like 22 points, maybe 6.5 assists, which is pretty good. Last season, his total of 6.2 assists
Really good.
per game was really good comparing to any other season. His previous record was like 4.8. That's a huge bump.
Oh wow, yeah.
Last season. So
Can I say one thing to defend Jamal real quick?
Of course.
One thing I really respect about his game is, if you guys have noticed, whenever we're playing against a team that has a really good guard, if that guard is going off, Jamal doesn't look at him and go, I got to match him shot for shot. He continues to run the offense and play the same way, and is like, you know what? It's fine if you have 40 and I finish with 25 and 10 and Jokic has 30 and 10 and we just beat you guys by 4 points. So he really is a winner more than anything. And, I said this on Twitter the other day, like, everybody saying guard X is better than Jamal Murray just doesn't bother me, because we won. He knows what it takes to win. We're good enough to win with him. And if he continues to put up numbers like this in the regular season and keep rising in the playoffs, I would totally take that.
Yeah. Also, they're not better. That also makes me feel better. Is that they can say what they want, but Devin Booker's not better than Jamal Murray. Sorry. Things like that. But you're right, though. It's just
before we move on to Nikola Jokic, just last question. Give me your percentages for Jamal being an all-star and for Jamal being an all-NBA guy next season. Let's start with Ray.
Okay, so all-star, I'm going to say, okay, let's just assume no injury then. Is that okay? Because I don't like to. I think all-star, because of Dame leaving and everything, probably 80, 75%. Like, I have it pretty high. All-NBA, 33. Let's go 1 and 3, something in that range. So I think it's high as far as all-star, but the West is pretty bereft of great guards. So take that with you will. But once you get to the All-NBA, I don't know.
Pete?
I'll be a little more pessimistic. I'll say all-star 75%, all-NBA 20%.
That was what I was going to say. No.
Yeah, those are very fair. I think he's going to get in the All-Star even if he doesn't deserve it with the regular season. He just needs to stay at the same level, and people will be, but they are the 1 seed and they did win the effing championship, so we cannot give them only one All-Star player again. I mean, unless like Michael Porter he's having a crazy first couple of months, like scoring 27 points per game, or Aaron Gordon, averaging a double-double with I don't know, 20 points or something like that. But other than that, I think he's like an 80% all-star, maybe 85% chance, and all-NBA. I mean, I would like to think that there's a chance for him. I mean, if he gets it, the Nuggets are going to look like what was the 2016 Golden State Warriors?
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy.
Which might not be a good thing. It's It's true. Yeah, it might not be. You don't want to be like 15 games above the number 2 seed because you will have tried way too hard. Yeah.
We've crossed some bridges, guys. Like we are hoping for our guys not to have too great of regular seasons because
know.
now we know now we know what's the main thing.
Such
Okay.
confidence.
It's great. So much confidence. Okay, let's get to the last guy for today's exercise. The main guy, Nikola Jokic. Last season, 34 minutes, 24.5 points. Really, really disappointing. 12 rebounds, almost 10 assists. We know that he had it like a 10 per game until like three matches before the end. And then 38% from the 3-point line, which is pretty crazy. Although on only like two attempts, I think, per game. And then in the playoffs, 40 minutes, 30 points, 13.5 rebounds, 9.5 assists, 46% from the 3-point line on like 4.5 attempts. Come on, man. Come on. So, what more? Okay, not what more. What can we expect from him? You can compare it to last 3 seasons or take it whatever you want. Peter.
I think his numbers are going to go slightly down, scoring and rebounding. I just think, if Porter is more spry, he's going to get in there for more rebounds. And, I just think Murray is going to take it upon himself starting out healthy. He'll probably be scoring more. So that'll take a few shots away. The assists will probably stay pretty consistent. I mean, it'd be really cool if he could get to 10 per game. But I don't think he hunts assists. They just kind of happen or they don't. So if the other guys on the team have a good shooting year, he could get to 10 assists. And then the 3-point shooting is just, man, what a great year he had. I don't know if he can do that again. Maybe he can, but it's kind of a bonus when he shoots that well.
Ray, are these 46% real?
You know what? I think, honestly, this is so crazy. But I think that in the mid to low 40s is like, if he really wanted to, that's what he would shoot. Because he just seems to like only be doing this when the games are really hard. Maybe it's a concentration thing. And it probably is. I don't get it. But yeah, I think he's a 40% 3-point shooter in the games that matter or more, maybe. He's ridiculous. As far as the scoring in the regular season, every time everybody's like, and what we always do this, and I do this too, I'm like, oh, he's not going to score as much, but he scores a ton. So I think that what might happen is he might just roll into some more assists just because there might be the chemistry, and then the Michael Porter, I think, is going to have a better shooting year. Jamal Murray is going to be healthy. I could just see that extra assist getting there more often. And the only thing that might lower those numbers, and this is for all the guys, it might be just that they're blowing guys out, which I could also see happening. Same thing basically with Jokic, but just probably better than I expect. Better than I'm saying now, because it always is. He always shatters expectations.
I have one real sneaky thing for you in the weeds, Miroslav. One rule change the NBA made this year was I believe they added a second coach's challenge if you win your first one. So Michael Malone smartly almost always uses his challenge on a Jokic foul that he doesn't think is a foul. So we've seen that impact games where he has to go to the bench with foul trouble early. If he has an extra foul to play with, or I just mean overturned, there's going to be games where he's playing 5 to 7 more minutes that he usually wouldn't have gotten last season.
Oh, see, so it's going to be triple double easily.
That's right. Had those stats.
He'll be playing more, so they'll be blowing guys out. So they'll be, and we're cocky at this point, but so then they'll just be resting.
No, you're assuming the bench is going to be good if you're saying that.
Oh, that's right. So they'll just play the bench more to keep it closer. Okay, that makes sense.
It's really hard to grasp what can you expect from him, but let's make it simpler. What are his percentages? What's his chance of getting his third MVP, regular season MVP, next season? with everything we know now?
Oh man, what is he at right now? Like plus 400 or plus? I haven't looked at it in a long time. Which
Yeah,
would say,
he is the top prospect for the MVP.
yeah. So I think that
For the first time ever,
50
by the way.
I would like if I had to bet on him at 1-1 or 50%, I would probably bet on him. Like, so I think it's 50 at least, which is crazy for an MVP, to say, because it's an easy bet right now with where he was at least earlier. But yeah, I kind of say 50%. I think that the teams teaming up, the really good teams that'll be teaming up, they're going to sort of cannibalize each other. Denver's going to be a high seed most likely. Who else can you see doing that except for maybe Luka having a great season, and how good is Dallas got to be? Who else? I don't know. I think it's his, it's his. Oh, I mean, Embiid, I don't know if he can get it no matter what they do, given what happened. Yeah. Giannis too, I guess. Oh, go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably go like 20%. I mean, I think we all agree he's the best player in the NBA, but I don't know if he's interested in winning MVPs anymore. I think he might, pace himself.
But he can be not interested and still be like MVP numbers. That's what's crazy.
Guys,
yeah, I don't know.
He would have won it last year if it wasn't for that shit show made by Kendrick Perkins. That was just I mean, I don't know.
No, yeah.
It's maybe it's like nowadays the voting machine for the MVP is smarter than ever. Like, these guys have so much more information nowadays than what the guys voting for the MVP had like 20, 30 years ago. Yeah. I'm pretty sure of that. And if you have so much information on Nikola Jokic, it's really hard to make a case for yourself not to vote for him with your, number one vote. So it needed to be such a nasty thing for him not to get it last year, and now they're out of moves. I mean, I don't know what else can they do to try to diminish his impact, and impact is crazy. And by the way, Giannis, yeah, great candidate, but is Dame gonna cannibalize his case?
All I'm saying is I think that's some free money if you're a gambler at whatever he's at right now. I just don't see, and I don't see like how there's going to be any voter fatigue. It's going to be the we screwed up. It's going to be the opposite of voter fatigue. I think, we'll see. I mean, something's got to happen, like where they got to be like a bad seed, or he's just gotta like just not care. But even then, I don't know. I think him not caring is still so freaking good that it's just that's probably enough to carry him.
Miroslav, I will say one thing he's got going for him this year is that this is kind of sad to say, but more people just know who he is. I mean, even though he won 2 MVPs, I thought it was completely embarrassing that Lisa Salters in game 2 of the Western Conference Finals said, "I've been sleeping on this guy" after he kicked Anthony Davis's ass. I was like, what?
He's
been playing like this for like 3 years. Do you only watch the games you attend? I'm sorry, that is a little harsh, but it's just like their Nuggets are going to be on TV even more now. I think all the people that voted for Jokic, if he's the best player, will vote for him again. And I think he will maybe convert some more of the others who maybe didn't believe, we got to see in the playoffs. Well, now you saw it. We just saw those numbers. Those were insane. Those are video game numbers. I mean,
total video game numbers. Yeah. And maybe he gets more credit from the refs. We keep saying it every year, but if he gets a fairer whistle,
I'm not holding out hope for that. But.
Yeah, I'm just saying if he gets an Embiid whistle, then it's over. Just like lock up the MVP for like a decade because it's just going to happen.
Jokic leads the leagues in twos made where they didn't call the foul.
Really? Is that true?
I'm just saying, like.
Okay, I was like, that's crazy. Yeah.
I don't know. My prediction here about his MVP case is that the votes at the end will look very much like those percentages from the Basketball Reference, MVP odds. Like he's gonna get like 85-90% of first place votes next season. He might get more first place votes than he got 2 seasons ago when he was almost unanimous So it's just that they will have to overcorrect this time. And if you're overcorrecting in Nicola's favor, like what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
what's the limit? What's the limit there? Okay, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me for the last 70 minutes. It's been a crazy off season, crazy long for me, but I was lucky enough to get so many great people on this podcast in the last 2 months when we actually had zero things to talk about in the present. We could always only talk about the past and the future. So I want to thank to everybody that was here during the off season. I want to thank all of the guys that participated in the trivia game show last month. That was a blast for me. And now we're on to the on season, and you can expect all more appearances by Ray and Peter for sure. Thank you and have a great day. And let's go Nuggets. Idemo Nuggetsi.
Go Nuggets. Take care, guys.